Okay, so you just got a VCR. How do you hook it up? So I want to go through hooking up a VCR, which I'll go through the different connections on it. They're all pretty standard, and how to connect it to different types of TVs. Let's start with the oldest example. Alright, we're at the back of the TV and VCR. So let's start with the most basic way to hook it up. You have these little threaded connectors for a coax. It's called an F connector. You'll have an in and an out. For this purpose, we're only concerned about the out. Don't worry about the in. Analog TV is dead. Now you'll need to get yourself a coax cable. I like these little slip-on ones. They're a lot easier to use, but you can also use these threaded type cables. Coax is plugged in. So now I want to take the other end and plug it into the TV. Oh, but all I have are these screw terminals. So older TVs had these little screw terminals instead of a coax connector for your antenna. This is referred to as twin lead. It's 300 ohm balanced, all sorts of things. It's basically just a different way to transmit the signal and receive the signal. What you'll need is one of these little guys. It's called a matching transformer. What this does is there's a little transformer inside that matches the impedance from the coax to these little wires. These are spaced out a certain distance you see here, and the wires being spaced out that distance give you a 300 ohm impedance between them. Coax for TV is 75 ohms. So what this does is this matches the signal. So I'll just screw this on here and plug my little cable into it. So one thing to mention too, in North America, when you're hooking a VCR up to a TV, you hook it up to the VHF connector. See that there? Modern TVs combined VHF and UHF and only had one coaxial connector. The older TVs, they were separate. You'll always want to hook the VCR up to VHF. Now the reason is because this outputs on a VHF channel, either channel 3 or 4. Most VCRs will have a little switch on the back that lets you select what channel it outputs on. The reason why you could change it is because depending on where you lived, you might have a channel on 3 or 4 that was being broadcast. You could pick out up over antenna. So if that was the case, you'd get noise and interference when you were playing your VCR back. Again, it's 2021. There are no broadcast channels 3 or 4. You just pick whatever and use it. I mean, there's 2 to choose from. It's fine. It's all fine. Just to note, some older VCRs will have these twin lead screw-on connections on the back in addition to coax. Still use the coax. Don't connect these to the TV. These are UHF only. North American VCRs will only output the video signal when you're playing a tape on VHF. These are only for connecting a UHF antenna to the VCR to record off the air, and then passing that UHF antenna to the TV UHF connection, so that you don't need 2 UHF antennas. But the video signal coming from the VCR will always come out on these coax connectors. And there you go. You are now connected with this modern VCR to this old black and white TV. Alright, let's go to something slightly newer. This classic 1980s Montgomery Ward TV. So looking around the back here, VCR is the same as before. This TV is a little newer, and some of these had the option for the twin lead 300 ohm connection or coax. In the case this one, see it says 75 ohm, leave this here, 300 ohm, pull this out, and jam it in like that. There. So all this is doing is it's taking this and connecting it to there. Really silly. Some of these early 80s machines had that. But for our purpose, we're going to be using this connector, so all we have to do is plug it in. Now, this TV also has inputs on the back. You can see audio in, video in. So another way to hook it up is through this connection. Let's do that. So now we're going to be using composite video and separate audio. This is the yellow, white, and red cables that you often see. Yellow being video, white being audio left, and red being audio right. Now we'll just connect to the output here. The thing about composite video is it is better quality. With RF, you are prone to noise and interference because you are essentially broadcasting a mini television station over here and then receiving it over here. With composite, you're just sending this straight signal directly to the TV. So it'll, in general, be cleaner, have less noise, less interference. So now we go over to connect this to the TV. So yellow goes to video. So plug that in. But you notice there's a problem. There's one connection for audio on the TV, but there's two coming from the VCR. Stereo VCR, mono TV. You can do one of two things. You can plug one in, but you're going to miss half the audio when you're watching a movie. The other option is to get a little combiner. So what this does is this combines the left and the right into one connection that I can go and plug into the back of the TV, like that. All right. So VCR is paused right now, and here is our picture. So you can see I have this on channel 3. You can select whatever channel the VCR is set to, but I also have it hooked up to the composite line in. So I'm just going to switch the TV over to that. Now this is not going to come across on the camera at all, but I will tell you that the picture is ever so slightly sharper. Now the quality difference is going to vary wildly from TV to TV and from VCR to VCR, but in general, the yellow composite video signal is better, and I would use it if possible. But again, your mileage may vary. All right, next is a stereo TV. So with this, the connection is the same as before. You have your three connections: video, audio left, audio right. And you'll plug them into the same connections on the TV. Modern TVs are nicely color-coded. Older ones aren't. You'll have to read the label. In this case, I don't recommend using RF. And here's the reason. You will not get stereo audio if you hook a stereo VCR up to a stereo TV using RF. Stereo VCRs almost always did not support stereo when they were playing movies on this output here. The standard for stereo audio on a TV channel is called MTS stereo. These did not support MTS stereo on their modulated RF output. So if you want to get stereo audio, you have to use these connections. I'm sure there's going to be an exception. There's going to be a VCR out there that modulates on MTS stereo. But trust me when I say it's rare. You want stereo, hook it up with these. So, I hear you ask, what if my VCR doesn't have stereo audio connections on the back? It's only mono. First off, my condolences, I'm sorry to hear that. Secondly, you can hook it up exactly the way I hooked a stereo VCR up to a mono TV, but in reverse. You can hook it up in this fashion. So you take the cable coming from the stereo TV and you combine left and right to go to your audio output that we see here is the white connector, and then hook your video up the way you normally would. Or you can hook it up with the RF output like I showed before. Picture quality may be slightly worse, but since it's not stereo, you don't have to worry about not receiving the stereo audio. You'll get roughly the same for both. Another type of connection that's only present on SVHS or Super VHS VCRs is S-Video, which is this little mini DIN connector you see here. Now this only carries video, so you'll need to hook up your audio the same way you did with the composite signal. Only instead of using that little yellow connector, you're going to use an S-Video cable. This connector carries two video signals in the single connector. You see those 4 pins? You have one for luma or brightness, one for chroma or color, and then both of them have a corresponding ground. The advantage to this is that you won't get any interference from the chroma signal onto the luma signal. And this is what's known as dot crawl. Usually on very high contrast sharp edges, you'll have these little dots that flicker. and that's basically due to interference of the color signal on the black and white video signal that it's overlaid on top of. Now, one thing to be aware of, do not twist this when you're plugging it in. If you'll notice, there's these little tiny pins and that little key, see if we can focus here, and those all break off real easy if you're not careful. So what you want to do is line up, see that little sort of marking? Let's get some light here. That little marking along the top, that's the top. And you can see the structure of the pins kind of tapers down like a Christmas tree from the top. Look here, tapers down like a Christmas tree from the top. So you just line that key in and plug it in. No twisting, just push right in. This will give you slightly better picture quality, so if it's available on your VCR and your TV supports it, I do recommend using it. But wait, we're in 2021. They sell TVs without composite or S-video inputs anymore. In fact, S-video died off in the 90s. So how do I connect my VCR to a modern flat panel TV? Well, I believe most flat panel TVs still have a tuner. So you could hook it up with the Coax, or what a lot of people do, and I'll show you, you can buy these little AV to HDMI, composite to HDMI adapters or upscalers. What this is this gives you your same inputs, CVBS, which is another name for composite video something signal, composite video broadcast signal, I think. Anyway, your yellow connector, your audio connectors, and it outputs to HDMI. So just plug it in like this. This goes to your flat panel. This comes from your VCR. Set anything else up that you need to. In the case of this one, it's got a switch that sets your output resolution. So on the HDMI output, you can either have 720 or 1080p. You can play around with that. If you set it to 720, then your TV, your flat panel, is going to upscale it to whatever native resolution it has, whether it's 1080p, 4K, whatever. So depending on if this does a better job upscaling or your TV does a better job upscaling, you can play around with that. Whatever gives you the best picture quality. It's very subjective and it varies from set to set. So I think that about covers it. You'll find some other TVs, like little portable TVs, if you want to play around with those. If they have an external connection, it'll usually be a little 3.5mm audio type connector. And you can buy little adapters that'll adapt those to a coax connection or one of these F connections real easily. One like this right here. And yeah, I think that just about covers it. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this video was helpful, or if you learned something, or if there's something that I missed, or if you'd like me to cover another topic. Yeah, leave me a comment what you think.